What if I told you it doesn't matter what happens, but who you are when it does? Don't skip over that. That shit was hard, wasn't it? But no, seriously. I'm trying something new here. I don't know if I did how I'm going to do these uploads. They're very different, but so bear with me. My editing skills aren't exactly where I want them to be, but also I brought notes and things like that I've can help me, assist with me, right? But welcome back to Thrive and Peak. This is Thane or Duke, whichever you prefer. I was thinking about this the other day and I had this image in my head, and I actually made wallpaper out of it because it was that vivid, right? But you're sitting there and watch everything you thought was stable explode. And in that moment, nothing matters except one thing. I had 3 fingers up, but I meant one. Who shows up? Okay. Life doesn't schedule itself around you. You know, I'm not the first person to break that to you or to let you know, right? It doesn't send you a warning text. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It just happens. You know what I mean? Loss happens. Failures happen. Disappointment happens. You know. And in those moments, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to who you already are. And there is where most people struggle. That's where they spend their whole life preparing for outcomes, but never preparing for identity. They ask questions like, what if this happens? And what if I fail? Or what if I lose? But I think they need to kind of focus and kind of pin on who am I going to be when it does, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And because 2 people can go through the same thing. I touched upon this a little bit, a couple of my other episodes. One of my very first episodes, the storm. 2 people can go into 2 different storms, or the same storm. They can go through the same storm, and one breaks and the other doesn't. One breaks and one becomes, you know? Same situation, different identity, you know what I mean? That's the difference, though. That's a big difference. I've had moments like that in my life where I thought, hey, this didn't go as planned. Where I had to sit there and really ask myself, am I going to become bitter or am I going to become better? Am I going to shut down or am I going to show up? And here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear it. You don't really decide. You don't decide who you are in that moment. You decide it before. You decide it in the quiet days, the normal days, the days where everything's going right. That's where identity is built. On those days. Because when life hits, you're not choosing, you're revealing, right? It's not a matter of what happens, because something will always happen. It's not a matter of what life is trying to test you, because it will. The real question is, who are you when it does? I learned, there's a quote that I picked up on, and I do a lot of that for like framework, but there's a quote that I picked up on. But you really see someone's identity, like they reveal themselves when they don't get what they want, right? And I mean, same, you know, really. We're equally liable to that, really. I feel like that reveals a lot about someone's character. If they don't get what they want, but they have to eat that and swallow and like kind of sit with that, right? It's like, okay, you can choose to become bitter, or you can choose to become better. It's really it's based on the individual and their circumstances, events, and things like that. And I think it really just depends on the situation and the scenario. Like I said, you could go through like the same storm as somebody else, but one breaks, one becomes. And you just have to make sure that you're okay with whatever you prefer. You know, you're making memories. You're making a lot of, but also at the end of the day ends. So you kind of have to sit well with, can I look at myself in the mirror? Did I do my best? Can you honestly say that? Then yeah, you're on the right track. But again, be patient with yourself, let yourself grow, and allow yourself to thrive. Really. Sometimes like people are afraid to like, hey, if this goes well, then what? You know? That's a genuine fear too, because they don't know any different. Sometimes people are afraid to succeed. I mean, and all of us are afraid to fail. But failure isn't you. I tell my son this. I'm like, hey, I get more out of I get more out of a loss than I do a win, because I learned something that didn't necessarily work for me. And I try to tailor that for also lots of things in my life, really. But yeah, a lot, like, losing is inevitable. You just have to learn to roll with the punches, really. And so is winning. Like, that happens, either or, you know? That's the fun part. Whenever you enter a game 50-50, you know, you can either win, you can either lose. You know what I mean? And if you take something from your loss, that turns your loss into a win anyways. You turn your L into a lesson. So here, I have my outro here. I really want you guys to think about today, though, really. Not later, not tomorrow, right now. Who are you when things go wrong? Who are you when nobody's watching? Who are you when life doesn't necessarily go your way? Because that person, that's the one you're becoming. And that's the one the world is eventually going to meet. I'll catch you guys on the next one. This has been Thrive and Peak. Keep on climbing. Peace.